Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
The gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to start in response to the gentleman by talking about, I think, what's really important in K-12, and that is, how are you doing? And we're doing pretty well. If you look, the sky is not falling in K-12. We have an 87% graduation on time rate. That's up from 82%. We also we're third in the nation as far as our AP test. 1 in 4 of our students scored a 3 or better. Industry certifications have increased from 85% since 2009. And let me talk a little bit about the governor's budget, because we've heard a lot about this typical Washington talk about, I guess, cuts when maybe you haven't increased it quite as much as the gentleman would like. But the reality is that this budget does have $438 in additional funds over the biennium for K-12. And don't forget, the governor sent an amendment down that puts another $47 million into K-12 funding. The standards of quality are fully funded, including anticipated enrollment growth. And let's deal a little bit with some of those items the gentleman talked about. First of all, on the federal deduct, remember that was a Governor Warner initiative that goes back to his term. And why on earth should we be assuming those costs? And I think Governor Warner was right on that. As far as the stimulus goes, we were up front from the very beginning that we were not going to re-benchmark on those figures, and we were very clear with the school systems and everyone else we weren't going to do that. And finally, I've got to tell you, as a 30-year teacher, I'm very grateful for what the governor did on pensions, because that's a fundamental thing that both state employees and teachers look forward to. And the system was underfunded. And just to discount that as if it doesn't count, I think is inappropriate. And let me finish with this. We've heard, of course, a lot of talk about health care and K-12 and how the governor slashed them. But I think the Times-Dispatch sums it up well in an editorial that basically says the new tone. And they say, more broadly, Democrats accuse Republicans in general and Governor Bob McDonnell in particular of launching an assault on children, the elderly, and the poor, despite a budget that adds more than $1 billion for K-12 education, Medicaid, legislative priorities that include broadening access to college for Virginia's high schoolers. So, Mr. Speaker, in the end, we've done a very solid job in K-12. Our achievements going up, and only on this side of the aisle are we innovative enough to look at solutions for kids like school choice, especially for kids that are at risk, charter schools, virtual schools, lab schools. And so I'm proud of our record in K-12, and I look forward to defending that on the floor when the budget comes to the floor.